In a world of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. And now, your host, David Knight.
Welcome back. We're going to play some clips for you from MSNBC. If you thought that Tapper and Clapper exchange was amazing, what Jake Tapper said, you won't believe what MSNBC panelists said about Allahu Akbar, about some other issues here. So we're going to play that for you, but we're going to do it in the next segment. This is the top of the hour, and we got our radio stations are carrying news. So I want to update this when we're talking about James Clapper and his push, immediately turning this into a push for, well, it's not clear how much we know about this guy. So I think when we talk about surveillance being too intrusive, just remember, surveillance can save you from this. Well, no, it can't. We see over and over again that it doesn't save us from this. And we see in foreign countries, they'll always come out because they don't want to look like they didn't know anything. And I'm sure they will come out and say, yeah, he was on our radar, but, just got away from us that day. They'll say, yeah, we knew all about him, but we didn't do anything. So they're kind of in this situation. Did they know and not do anything about it? Or did they not know? Well, maybe they're going to take the approach that, well, we didn't know enough about him, and so we have to have more of a surveillance state. That's why you need to get behind Rand Paul and Ron Wyden, the guy that James Clapper lied to his face, saying we're not spying on the American public. They are. And they want to get permanent authorization for the parts of the Patriot Act that they claim give them the ability, even though the Constitution clearly says they don't have the authority. But they claim that the Patriot Act and certain sections of it give them the authority to do dragnet surveillance on Americans. They don't. The FISA Act made that clear. Said you cannot even surveil without a search warrant. You can't even surveil foreign citizens on U.S. soil. The FISA Act said you can only, the CIA, the NSA, you can only surveil foreign citizens on foreign soil. You have to have a search warrant for anything else. They don't care. And so you need to get behind this act by telling your elected representatives that you don't want this reauthorized. And so sign up to that. I did a report on that the other day. Let them know, because, the legislators don't like people spying on them. Let me give you an example of this. Somebody is spying on Florida legislators, says TampaBay.com. They said for at least 3 days in the final week of the 2017 legislative session, a covert surveillance camera recorded the comings and goings of legislators and lobbyists who were living on the 6th floor of a condominium near the Capitol. See, they don't like it when they're spied on. They don't like it when the government's not doing the spying. And what was behind all of this was there was a guy who was a Republican, and he got booted out for some things that he said. And so he wanted to get even and get some dirt on some of the Democrats who had got him booted out. So he hired a private detective agency to get dirt on these guys. And so he put the surveillance camera there. They found the surveillance camera. They basically tracked it back to these people and said, we had he told me that he was putting private investigators on legislative people that he thought were at fault for his demise. So it's political vengeance. Do you think that the surveillance state, as highly politicized as it is against President Trump, you don't think that they do stuff like that for vengeance? Absolutely they do. And this is what is happening to us. They'll go after the interesting people, as Hayden says. Not the bad people, but the interesting people, the people that are their political enemies. That is the most insidious part of it. And that's why it has to be stopped. Here's another example. Remember the story about the Utah nurse? You saw her get roughed up because she said, I need to see your warrant to do something to this patient who was unconscious. And it turned out the patient was a police officer who had been hit by a drunk driver. And she said, he's either got to be under arrest or you got to have a search warrant. And then the cop that was there, who it turned out was actually a paramedic, a part-time paramedic, he roughed her up, put her in handcuffs and roughed her up. Well, she is now settled for $500,000. And it took several months for that video to come out. It was something that happened, but they kept it for a long time going public. Then it went viral. They fought her on the release of that footage, that body cam footage. And so she's going to use that $500,000 to fund an initiative to help Utah residents gain access to police body cam footage at no charge. That's the way you get back at these people. We have to understand our privacy is important. Theirs isn't when they're on the job. Stay with us. We'll be right back. I'm David Knight. Welcome back. And I want to get back to the mainstream media. We played Jake Tapper And his reaction saying, Allahu Akbar, is such a beautiful thing. It's a shame that it gets used in situations like this. And it's like, if you understood anything about this, and I don't think that he's ignorant. I think he's misleading the American public. If he understood what the meaning of that is, as I said, Allah is not God. They will be the first to tell you that their Allah is different from your God. And what they're saying is that their God, Allah, is greater than your God. And so it is not a beautiful thing. At the very least, it is a taunt, but it is the war cry of terrorists. And yet we have the political correct media, the political correct social media telling us, don't jump to any conclusions. And we just saw this guy run down innocent people, murdering them, and then jumping out, Allahu Akbar. Don't jump to any conclusions that this is Islamic terror. It's vehicle terror. That's what the Daily Caller called it. They said, vehicle terror becomes the new norm. No, Islamic terror becomes the new norm. Let's stop the political correctness. Language matters. And even if you say, well, it's implied that, we're just talking about it as an instrument. No, it matters. Because what you're doing is you're deflecting this away from the true source. Let's confront the reality with our eyes wide open. Let's not try to dodge this. Let's not try to put a soft spin on this. Let's understand what this truly is and call it what it is. Now, here's a guy who can't call it what it is, an MSNBC panelist. And let's run this clip from him. This is Malcolm Nance on MSNBC.
Say, I'm going to do this rather than drive a car down the street with nobody on it. I'm going to drive over people and have the what do you call it, the intestinal evil to be able to keep driving after you've hit the first person. That requires some real evil. But your thoughts?
Well, you're absolutely right. It is evil. And what it is you are seeing the of a cult ideology. And what you're seeing is not Islam whatsoever. None of this is condoned, including the sacrificing and getting yourself killed at the end of a terrorist attack. None of that is Islamic. It's anti-Islamic. And what you're seeing is these people have created a belief system in which mass murder, as we saw in 9/11 and as we've seen all throughout the Middle East, they kill more Muslims than anyone else, where mass murder is their act of worship. And that's just cultism. And there's virtually no way to stop it once it gets in the mind of one individual unless he enunciates it or communicates it electronically.
Well, we just have received.
Okay, so it's anti-Islamic. Well, I don't know about that. I didn't see him attacking a mosque. You know what? The problem is that we call these people Islamic fundamentalists. Why do we do that? Christian fundamentalist is somebody who takes the Bible literally and tries to obey it literally. An Islamic fundamentalist is somebody who takes the Quran literally. And the people who say, well, I'm a Muslim, but I'm a moderate, these are the people who are cultural Muslims. And they're not trying to live by their book. And so what Islam needs to do, and it's their problem, not mine. I don't really care I'm not going to debate the fine points of their religion with them. I'm beyond that. I don't really care about their politically correctness. I don't care about their deflection, saying, well, this isn't true Islam. Well, why doesn't true Islam do something about it? I don't see them doing anything about this. I don't see an Islamic Reformation that is going to redefine this in terms of intellectual ideas. And then we have this clip. We put this out, again, deflecting this away from Islam and even deflecting it towards a Catholic. Also, MSNBC. Let's play that clip.
One of the largest number of Uzbek populations in Salafist terrorism in South Asia and the Middle East, even in Syria. But until we do get real hard intelligence on this individual, these are a little preemptive. And, I know that's going to be tied into politics and immigration at some point. But, the guy has been here since 2010. We saw the same problem that happened with the Tsarnaev brothers in Boston. These people self-radicalize, and it could have been an American who was formerly Catholic 2 weeks ago, just as easily as it was a person from South Asia.
All right, cue the American Carol, because this is, and when you listen to this clip, Because there is a reference in there to, well, now we got to take off all of our underwear at the airport because of the underwear bomber. This is a movie that came out in July of 2008. The underwear bomber, as we pointed out with the interview of Kurt Haskell, the guy who witnessed this guy being put on a plane. You know, in the middle of winter, he doesn't have a jacket. He's dressed in a T-shirt and jeans. He looks like he's kind of out of it, on drugs or drunk or something. And a guy, a very sharp-dressed guy in a suit, he said looked like an Indian individual. He gets him on the plane. He doesn't have a passport either. Doesn't have a coat. It's not dressed. It's like he doesn't look like he belongs with this guy. And they get him on the plane. The person at the desk said, no, he can't board without a passport. Well, who can I talk to? So he goes back and he talks to somebody, and then they get him on. And this is the underwear bomber. And so this is what they use to get body scanners in. We don't have to, at this point, take off our underwear and go through naked, but it's getting pretty close to that. And they have now stepped up, even under Trump. Many times, Trump is way too far into the law enforcement court. He errs on the side of law enforcement and not on individual rights. And so now they're stepping up the procedures at the airport, stepping up the invasive body pat-downs, if you want to call it a pat-down. I don't think it's a pat-down anymore. I think they've gone beyond that. But just as you hear this, and as they put this stuff in, it's part of this parody, but this guy says, he could have been a Catholic who just changed. Who knows? I mean, don't say anything about Islam. And in this movie, American Carol, they have a guy who looks like Michael Moore, another one who looks like Rosie O'Donnell, and they're talking to Bill O'Reilly, and they're making all kinds of excuses, and they put together a film showing radical Christians. Here's that clip.
The civilized world braces itself for an onslaught of death and destruction brought on by radical Christians.
You've got a couple of priests who are spray painting a camera so you can't see it. They break into the airport, the airplane cockpit. They've got a cross. And they start attacking people with a cross, beating the pilot.
Jesus! Hail Mary, full of grace!
That's a nun on a bus.
Christians! 72 virgins, here I come!
She explodes herself.
Price for the increased security needs caused by the actions of radical Christians.
But I hate having to take these off.
Now the airport.
Yeah, ever since that Christian hid explosives in the bottom of his shoes.
Sorry, you can't take this on the plane. I'll have to confiscate
A
this.
tube of toothpaste?
Yep, no liquids ever since the Christians tried to bomb that plane with smuggled nitroglycerin. And I'm gonna take this as well, thank you.
Please remove all articles of underclothing.
Oh, brother.
Ever since the underwear bomber.
The radical Christian underwear bomber.
All items of underclothing must be placed flat in the trays.
Damn those Christians.
Yipes! My God.
Ma'am, if you had extra bleach, you might have a shot of getting those stains out.
Hey,
these people are stripping down naked to go through. They got to take their underwear off.
Ever since the suppository
Rectal
bomber.
exams.
The Episcopal suppository bomber.
Because of the Episcopal suppository bomber. See, that's what we are living with. But we got to pretend that, people like this guy was saying, this is not Islam. It has nothing to do with Islam. This guy could have been a Catholic. Absolutely amazing. Straight out of a satire parody that was done, I'll mention again, a year and a half before the real underwear bomber. And there they have people stripping down and taking their clothes off. By the way, that gets very low reviews on Internet Movie Database because it's being reviewed by liberal Hollywood, or I should say Harveywood types. That is an excellent film. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. Same people that did Airplane. And they really tear apart this political correctness, which is killing us. Those people who died, as I'll say it again, they died on the altar of political correctness. It's time to stop that. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm David Knight, and we're going to take a look at some more of the shooting. I'm sorry, not the shooting, the truck driver. We're also going to take a look at the Vegas shooting. I was just looking at that article. And, of course, we had Shepard Ambulis from IntelliHub on yesterday with Alex Jones talking about some amazing research that he's done there. And we're going to break that down for you. If you haven't heard that, it is amazing what they have found about the Las Vegas shooting relating to helicopters there that they think have extracted people right after the shooting stopped. And it is not something that just one individual would be involved in. So we're going to tell you about that in just one moment. Before we do, real quickly, I want to let you know about the sales we have at InfoWarsStore.com. It's what supports our operation and things that support your health. Some of our most popular products, Brain Force Plus, 50% off. Super Male Vitality, 30% off. Anthroplex, 50% off. And we have Silver Bullet and Winter Sun, part of our, I guess you could say, our winter special, helping you to fight infection. Silver Bullet, our colloidal silver, 50% off. And Winter Sun, our vitamin D supplement, helping to build your immune system, as well as to help to build your bones, help you to assimilate calcium and to assimilate nutrients so that in case you've got muscles that are aching severely. That's one of the signs of vitamin D deficiency, not just depression in the wintertime or lack of sunlight, but also people who have a vitamin D deficiency have more bone issues for their age. And so a lot of people who are supplementing with calcium to try to strengthen their bones, strengthen their joints, that's not going to be very effective if you have a vitamin D deficiency. You're not going to be able to assimilate the calcium that you're taking if you don't have vitamin D. Also, a couple of new sales. We have InfoWars Life Biome Defense 50. That's our probiotic, is now 25% off. That's live probiotic cultures from 23 different strains, known to support digestion and the intestinal functions. Also, DNA Force is now 25% off. That's a very big savings. And finally, you can get 16% off Vitamin Mineral Fusion Drink Mix. That's a wide variety of vitamins and minerals that you can take in a drink formula. You can just mix that with water. It's great tasting, or you can mix it with something else, fruit juice or something. And you don't have to swallow a lot of pills. You can get 16% off with the code VITA10 at checkout. That's 16% off Vitamin Mineral Fusion Drink Mix at checkout when you enter the code VITA10. Well, one of the reactions that President Trump had, and I just played the clips for you of this MSNBC panelist. His name is Malcolm Nance. First he was saying, this isn't Islam, this is anti-Islam. This guy could have been a Catholic, and I played for you American Carol. And remember, that was done around the 4th of July, 2008. And the people who put that together, the people behind Airport, or rather Airplane, I should say, and the parodies of that, the Naked Gun parodies, very funny. Got a very low rating because, again, the ratings on Internet Movie Database are put there by people typically who are in Hollywood, and they don't like conservative films. But it is a great satire of political correctness, and as you saw that, they're deflecting it to Catholics. They had people going through the airport, and they said, well, it's because of those that Christian shoe bomber. Now we got to take our shoes off. Well, it's because of that Christian underwear bomber. Now we got to take off our pants and our underwear and go through naked. We got the naked body scanners is what we wound up getting. And, of course, we exposed that as a false flag. If you haven't seen Kurt Haskell's interview with me, and we did it last week, and we related it to the Vegas shooting, you need to see that. You need to understand that they put this false flag through so they could sell their body scanners. And this is moving out of the airports now. One of the things that's being talked about with this is like, we're going to have to shut down the movement of cars in the cities. We're going to have scanners at private areas. This is being put out by consultants, security consultants. They're saying this. So now they're going to take the TSA stuff out of the airports, and they're going to put it everywhere in your life, every public area, every public event, every shopping center. We've already seen it in places like Orlando. They're putting it there. And, of course, the people in the movie were even getting rectal exams because of the Episcopal suppository bomber. Yeah, maybe he had somebody that... maybe there were some connections with the CIA with that Episcopal suppository bomber. Who knows? But President Trump has said, being politically correct is fine, but not for this. He says, I've just ordered Homeland Security to step up our already extreme vetting program. Good. That's the thing that needs to be fixed. We need to make sure that we don't recruit these people and bring them in on a diversity immigration visa lottery, which is, I'm not making this up. This is a real thing. This is how this terrorist got in. We've got diversity lotteries, bringing people in from countries, and a long list of countries that I read to you that are on the terrorist list. Places that ISIS is very involved in, places that we're at war with, Afghanistan or Iraq, Syria, so forth. All those people, they get, we just want to have more people come in. We don't have any way to vet them. We don't know what their identity is even. And certainly we don't know if they've got any job skills. We don't require that they speak English. None of this stuff is a requirement. We want diversity. We want more terrorists. Give us ISIS. That's what we want on our streets because that gives us our surveillance police state. So President Trump says we're going to step up our already extreme vetting program. Being politically correct is fine, but not for this. Well, no, I don't support political correctness at any time. It's nothing but cultural Marxism. It is a tool that has always been used to control people, to censor free speech, to push an agenda, to take control of the language. That's what it's about. And again, at the bottom of this article, Daily Mail, the Arabic slogan, he shouts, translates roughly to God is great. How many times are we going to see this? I am so sick and tired of every report from mainstream media saying that the only people that told the truth about it, interestingly enough, were the BBC. They know who these guys are. Let's go to the video that smeared Republicans, part of the Virginia gubernatorial race. And again, when you look at this video, there was a very controversial video, but now, just as this is being pulled because of what really happened, you see how the Democrats, and in this case, the Latino Victory Project, takes reality and spins it on its head, just like we saw with American Dream. Oh no, it's not the Islamic terrorists, it's those Christian white people. And this is the video that the Latino Victory Project put out to attack the Republican governor. They got a girl in a hijab. And, Confederate flag flying from the back of a truck. There we go. And a Don't Tread on Me sticker. And a white guy. Now he's going to run down these Hispanic and Islamic people. Run! Run! We got a redneck trucker. White redneck trucker coming at us. Zoom in on that bumper sticker. Don't tread on me.
Run, run, run!
Oh, the Muslim girl with the backpack and the hijab. She's running.
Come on!
Okay. Bearing down on him. No matter how many alleys I go down, he's still coming after them. Oh, the dreamer. The dreamer wakes up. That was a nightmare.
Is this what Donald Trump and Ed Gillespie mean by the American dream? Latino Victory Fund paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
Okay, La Latino Victory Fund. Maybe that's the people, La Raza, which means the race. Their race above every other race. And you know what? It's caused his fundraising, the Republican that they attacked, it's caused his fundraising to triple. Triple. How's that? People know what you're about. Stay with us. We'll be right back. I'm David Knight. Welcome back. It's November the 1st, 2017. We've been talking for a while about who this guy was, what he did, and the way the mainstream media has reacted to it. Trying to spin Allahu Akbar. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. It's unfortunately sometimes used in situations like this. Telling us that it was anti-Islam, telling us it could have been Catholics who did something like this, as on and on and on. And then telling us, oh, we got to watch out now, vehicles. Vehicles are going to have to be controlled now. Just like they control us at the airports, they're now going to try to control us everywhere we go. That's in the making of this. And of course, that was a big part of what's going on in Vegas. I'm absolutely convinced of that. I can't prove it. But let's just say I'm going to go with my gut feeling on this. And we're going to tell you, review, some of the things that have come out in the last couple of days about Vegas. It still keeps looking phonier and phonier, folks. And we have some amazing research that was done by IntelliHub. The individual who did this, who runs IntelliHub, Shepard Ambulance, was on with Alex Jones yesterday on the radio. If you haven't seen that, you need to see it. But I'm going to give you a summary of his article in just one moment. But I want to say a couple of more things about radical Islam. Go back to this story that came out the last couple of weeks about a Canadian man and his American wife. She was pregnant at the time. He took her to Afghanistan because he wanted to help the Taliban. He had this idealist notion, just like these people who were making excuses for Islam. Oh, that's not real Islam. I want to get to real Islam. I want to go hang out with the Taliban. I want to help them. And they killed his baby that his wife was pregnant with. They were kept in captivity for years, and she was raped. She was tortured. She gave birth to 3 children in captivity. I don't know if they're his kids or not. And they come back, and he's a Canadian. She's an American citizen. He was very careful to not get a flight that would bring him back into America, because the Americans were going to question him about what he was doing there, I'm sure. But we went into Canada because, the Canadians are very politically correct about that. They're very understanding about people who are radical Islamic sympathizers, like this idiot whose kids and wife were tortured, killed. His baby was killed, his wife tortured, raped. This is a metaphor for what the left will do to us in their stupidity, their politically correct stupidity. This is what's going to happen to America if we let them do this. They're going to rape us. They're going to kill our children. And this guy is Exhibit A. His kids are now adapting to life in the West. They're afraid of other people. They're hiding in the closet. No, it's okay. You're not in a Muslim area now. So you can come out of the closet. The people here aren't going to beat you. And she said while she was in captivity, the only thing that helped her to get through was to remember her happy times in America. That was the thing that she kept going back to. She said, she told the New York Daily Record in Pennsylvania, or the York Daily Record in Pennsylvania, that her fond memories from home had helped her to cope during her time as an Islamic hostage. Her husband, her idiot husband, takes her there and exposes her and the family to that. But I want to take a look at the other direction. Let's take a look at this story from the Washington Post. And this goes back to October 24th. Maryland development is under fire for selling homes only to Muslims. Only to Muslims. Say, dueling legal complaints and allegations of Islamophobia. See, if you complain that they're violating the fair housing law by discriminating against people because of their religion, that makes you Islamophobic. See, you shouldn't. They can discriminate. And how dare you criticize them and say, we have rules in our country and we have equal housing rules in this country and you're violating those. You're Islamophobic. So this is a group, a 46-year-old guy who is a infectious disease doctor. He immigrated from Pakistan, and he teamed up with a different developer to build a retirement community for older Muslims. This is adherents, and I'm not sure how you pronounce their branch of Islam. They preach tolerance, don't they all? It is a religion of peace, after all. They all preach tolerance. And they face repression from other Muslims around the world, don't they all? They want to kill each other as much as they want to kill you because they consider their fellow Muslims who aren't part of their little narrow sect to be infidels as well. And they have to kill all the infidels. So all the Muslims are killing each other. And so they wanted to come up with a community of 49 spacious brand new homes for these Ahmadi Muslims. And they were going to have a dedicated mosque within walking distance. The language was later removed from their website, talking about that. It was replaced with an update that touted, we'll only have an audio feed from an adjacent mosque for the daily call to prayer. And then they removed that language also. They planned to market only to Muslims, and it proved successful. They had 22 of the 49 units sold within months, and they even had to hold a lottery. Oh, maybe kind of a diversity lottery? No. That's what the American government does. These Muslims, they don't want diversity. They held a lottery amongst their fellow Ahmadi Muslims, their little narrow sect. A real estate agent is the one who filed a complaint with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. She said, you are unlawfully privately marketing and selling only to Ahmadi Muslims. She said, I don't really care that they're Muslims, because that would make her evil in the eyes of the press. She would get social media, would be hating her. They would boycott her business. They would shut her down. So she has to kowtow to the notion that, I don't have a problem with these people who have a problem with me. I don't have a problem with these people who have a problem with an open and free society. I just don't like the fact that I can't earn a commission if I can't sell their homes because they're going to be privately marketing this. So I want to, and she said also, lenders will be cut out of selling interest rate or selling mortgages because Islamic law will not allow them to have interest rates. They have laws against usury, and any interest rate, according to them, is usury. So you see what they're doing here? They're not just making this selective just for their little narrow sect of Muslims, but they're also starting to invoke Sharia law. Yes. No houses here that are financed by banks. They say the leading problem on this project is housing discrimination. Said a Maryland official, we really don't need a group of people coming in that's going to isolate themselves from the rest of the community. Come in and do an end run around the state, around federal, around county laws. It's not a good way to start out as a good neighbor. Yeah, it's just not neighborly, is it? Why don't we just say that should be the basis of our immigration policy? That's the basis of our immigration policy. All right, we've got about 2 minutes left, so I'm going to get into this Vegas stuff, try to get as far into it as I can. We just had a press conference the last day or so. New information from the Las Vegas Police Department, who had gone silent, not giving us any new information. They just came out and said, oh, by the way, something new has come up. We have to admit that there was a gunshot that was fired in the hotel suite. And a Las Vegas police officer accidentally fired a gun inside the Mandalay Bay mass shooter's suite during the investigation, they say. Oh, that's kind of interesting, isn't it? Nobody was struck. Didn't hit this guy who's laying dead on the floor. No, that wasn't our gunshot. It happened. We're investigating it, just like we do with any officer-involved use of force. The round or rounds, oh, now it may be more than one. They're not really sure. Was it one shot? Was it more than one shot? They still don't know. He says it was not in the same room where the gunman Stephen Paddock was found dead, said Sheriff Lombardo. Paddock booked adjoining suites connected by a door, and it was in one of those other places. So it had nothing to do with him being dead. And yeah, we had shot go off, but we're not sure exactly how many shots. Here we are. How many weeks later? This is just coming out, and they're not sure how many shots. Well, when we come back from break, I'm going to play something even more amazing. This research about flight records that indicate a covert helicopter rooftop exfiltration may have taken place just minutes after the shooting stopped in Las Vegas. Isn't that interesting? From IntelliHub. We'll be right back. I'm David Knight. Welcome back. I'm David Knight. Going to get into the story about the covert helicopters at the Vegas shooting. Amazing story by IntelliHub. And of course, he was on yesterday with Alex Jones on the radio show. I'm going to give you a quick summary of this article. Very amazing research done by IntelliHub. Before you do, real quickly, I want to remind you of some of the sales we have at InfoWarsStore.com. We got a couple of new sales. We have DNA Force, 25% off, and that is a big dollar savings. Take advantage of that while it's 25% off, because each one of these batches that uses BioPQQ costs us about $30,000. It's very difficult to produce, very expensive to produce. And 25% off is a big savings. What is this about? Well, DNA Force helps to protect the health of your telomeres. You know, think about a shoelace, right? And you've got a little cap on the end of your shoelace. As that cap comes off, what's going to happen to your shoelace? It's going to unravel. Well, you have a similar thing on your DNA strands. They're called telomeres. And people have been able to look at the length of someone's telomeres and actually predict their life expectancy, because what happens is it gradually degrades over a period of time. And if you allow that to degrade, your DNA strands start to unravel. That's the simple analogy of what's happening with that. So they can look at it and say, well, you know, look at this, the strands in this DNA are starting to get down this rate, so we can kind of predict when they're going to disappear. And at that point, you begin to disappear. You literally become unraveled, I guess you could say, with the DNA. It's a very important thing. There's a lot of research that has been done. You can see the information about it on InfoWarsStore.com. A lot of information, a lot of research has been done into BioPQQ. A lot of research. I think it's 160, 170 different studies that have been done on that. Now, 25% off. We also have Brain Force Plus, 50% off. Anthroplex, 50% off. Silver Bullet, our colloidal silver, 50% off. And Winter Sun, vitamin D supplement, 50% off. And you can get 16% off of Vitamin Mineral Fusion Drink Mix. A great way to get your essential vitamins and minerals in a simple-to-take drink mix that tastes great. You don't have to swallow a lot of pills. Just use Vitamin Mineral Fusion Drink, and you can get 16% off of that right now if you put in the code VITA10 at checkout. That's 16% off Vitamin Mineral Fusion Drink Mix at checkout when you enter the code VITA10. All right, let's get to this article about what some of the suspicious things that were discovered by IntelliHub. He says flight records indicate a covert helicopter rooftop exfil, an exfiltration, removing somebody, may have taken place just minutes after the massacre. Flight records and information obtained by IntelliHub show that at least one assailant may have been extracted via helicopter for a 10:21 p.m. exfil from the southwest rooftop of the Delano Hotel just 4 minutes before Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department helicopter, and he gives a serial number, arrived in the vicinity for the first time since shots were fired at crowd-goers attending the Route 91 Harvest Music Festival around 10:05, as the timeline indicates. This is very detailed, folks. Very detailed research that he did into this. Even more disturbing is the fact that the aircraft's transponder was transmitting the call sign SWA 4119. It's a call sign that was registered to a Southwest Airlines Boeing 737 passenger jet with a tail number, and he gives it. I'm not going to go into all this detail for you. But here's the important point. The Southwest airline flight was scheduled to depart Tulsa at 2 in the afternoon and arrive in Las Vegas at about 3 in the afternoon. So it's 14:10, which is about 2:10 in the afternoon, arrive in Las Vegas local time about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But it was somehow delayed for over 7 hours, giving that code a new arrival time of 10:22. So it doesn't make sense that because the craft was headed north and was too close to the airport to be aligned with any of the runways. So why would that be there? They say, you see, the aircraft that was displaying that call signal between 10:21 and 10:22 that showed up on the radar for the first time at 10:21 cannot be a passenger jet. Why? Because the actual flight data confirms the aircraft slowed to a stop. It slowed to a stop. So here they're using the call letters of a Southwest Airlines flight that was delayed for 7 hours. And then that would put it around there about that time. And they got a transponder with that information on, okay? And then they see as they're following it, it slows to a stop. Then it changes direction abruptly. Passenger planes don't do that. You can't stop a passenger plane and then change direction. It changed abruptly to a due north heading before proceeding to hover over the Delano for a very specific spot for approximately 1 minute. In fact, a helicopter, because its jet simply can't hover or change speed and direction with such intensity, they said this means that the operators of the craft were intentionally transmitting a fictitious call sign before they went dark altogether, invisible on the radar. Then to top it off, the October 1st flight data for Southwest Airlines is showing inconsistencies. And so he goes through all this. It's a very detailed article. I'm not going to read it to you on the radio, but you get the idea. You've got suspicious dealings. You've got a delayed flight. This is not something that would happen with a lone wolf shooter, is it? And as I just mentioned, we had the Las Vegas police say, now it appears that we've got a weapon that was fired inside the suite. We're looking into this, and we'll give you updates on it, but don't worry. It didn't have anything to do with him, and it wasn't fired exactly in that room. And when we find out just how many shots it was, we'll let you know. And you can trust them. Whatever they tell you, no matter how many times they change it, no matter how impossible or improbable, impossible, like a Southwest Airlines jet stopping, hovering, and then abruptly changing direction. Yeah, could be, because they tell us so, right? You just listen to your government, obey your government. Don't question anything that they tell you. Don't question it. Even if it's impossible, don't question it. They come up with an impossible conclusion, impossible details, and tell us that we're conspiracy theorists if we question. Don't have an idea as to what happened with this, but, if you question the impossible, then a real investigation begins with questions. A real investigation doesn't shut down questions. A real investigation begins with questions, and then you start to rule out the impossible. You start to rule out people who don't have opportunity, things that can't happen, people who don't have motive. They don't have a motive for this guy. They're bragging about how they're going to examine his brain in microscopic detail. Okay. Let's talk about the Inquisition by Mueller. And very troubling things are coming out as we look at this. There's a lot of fear on K Street because they say all this stuff about not registering as a foreign agent. Nobody on K Street has really followed that law to the letter. So we're all in jeopardy, aren't we? So there's a lot of panic about that. There is a law that is decades old that they're charging him with violating. It's only been used 6 times. It shows you how deeply Mueller is digging. And out of those 6 times, they were only able to get a conviction once. So he's getting desperate. He actually got Manafort's lawyer to testify against him. This is an inquisition, folks. And there was an article on the LA Times by Douglas Kamiec, I guess is the way you pronounce his name, K-M-I-E-C, how Trump could stop the Russian investigation on constitutional grounds. This is very similar to what Jerome Corsi was saying about how, hey, look, you can stop these Obamacare subsidies on constitutional grounds. It was illegal. It never went through the process that they have to go through to fund anything. And it was declared illegal by a judge, so just stop the appeal. Well, let's take a look at this. What he is saying here in this editorial, he says, is the post of special counsel a Department of Justice administrative creation itself constitutional? He says, to begin with, the role cannot be justified by the Supreme Court's 8-1 approval of an earlier independent counsel law. That law was passed in 1978 and it expired in 1999. So let me give you the summary here. We've got a law that has expired, and we have a special investigator, Robert Mueller, who is not even following the expired law. And he is somebody who, if he was following the law, he would recuse himself because now he is implicated in collusion to cover up an illegal purchase of uranium in the Uranium One process. It was his FBI that was investigating for 15 months before that took place. It was his FBI that shut the guy up. And then last year, under Comey, the FBI threatened him with jail term or worse if he exposed any of this. So there's multiple reasons for Comey to not only be taken out, but to be investigated himself. The law has expired. It expired in 1999, and with good reason. He says the high court's lone dissenter in that 8-1 approval for the special counsel law was Antonin Scalia. And everybody said, yeah, actually, you know, he had the better argument. And Congress let the law expire just as he reasoned. He said it made it too easy to falsely call one's political opponent a crook. And both Republicans and Democrats were very happy to see that law be sunset. Under that law, independent counsels were appointed by a special 3-judge panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals. That didn't happen. Under that law, that was done only after the Attorney General conducted a preliminary investigation based on specific credible information about the alleged wrongdoing. That didn't happen either. You see what's happening? There is no law. I am the law. The law is in my mouth. Bring me the man, I'll find the crime. Stay with us. I'm David Knight.